this inspiring episode, Mighty Brad takes us on a transformative journey from battling depression to embracing spirituality and becoming a life coach. With honesty and depth, he delves into the vital role of self-development, the lasting effects of trauma, and the interconnectedness of mental and physical health. Together, we unpack the influence of social media on our mental well-being, the power of personal growth in fostering healthy relationships, and the profound importance of taking full responsibility for our lives. Brad reminds us that healing is not only possible, but begins with self-reflection and uncovering the root cause of your behaviors. Please welcome Bradley Glantz. Welcome to my show, Brad.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, Andrew. Super excited to be here.
Wonderful. It's a blessing to have you here. So tell me about your spiritual journey and what brought you to spirituality.
It's a great question. When I was 13 years old, I was diagnosed with depression. By 16 years old, I started my self-development journey. Really basic stuff, starting to get in the gym, go on walks, meditating. And from there, I like to describe it as it feels like I was born. No, let me rephrase that. Feels like I died and was reborn. And in that process, what I really mean is I started out with the basic self-development stuff, and then spirituality started to naturally make its way into my life, and I started to dive into the concept of the universe and God and religion, and kind of engulfing all of that. It really made me think a lot deeper about life in ways in which I never had before, because in growing up, my parents were not super religious, and so I never went to any sort of temple, synagogue, church, anything like that. And so religion, I knew it existed and I'd heard about God before, but I never really had any sort of perspective shift or really thought about life in any of a deeper manner. And so it was completely distant from me. And then when I was 16, really started to dive into it. And then from there, I now feel a lot more connected to what I do, what my purpose is, nature, God, the universe, whatever you believe in. I wouldn't even sit here now and say I have a specific set belief on what exactly God is and what exactly the universe is. I'm still pondering about all of this, but I remind myself that whatever is out there is very present in my life every day, and I'm always trying to remain grateful. And one of the greatest deep realizations that I've had over these past few months is that within every single thing that happens to me, positive and negative, there's a lesson to be learned, and I've been taking that with me, and it's done blessings for me.
What were your inspirations? What inspired you to become a life coach?
It's a great question. Since I was diagnosed with depression at 13, dealt with that for about 3 years, how I started my journey was simply stumbling upon somebody's YouTube video. The YouTube creator is named Elijah Long. He still makes great videos to this day. He focuses a lot on self-development for men, and he talks a little bit about spirituality in there. Talks a lot about the modern day culture and what's going on, how to be a man, what masculinity is. And from there, like I said before, it felt like I died and then was reborn. And my entire perspective on life flipped. It's like I described it as like this before, and then I was like, that's just completely different, completely 180, 360, however you would describe it. And after that, I really started to think a little bit deeper about life and became obsessed with every single way I could optimize my life, self-development, how to improve your relationships, how to improve your communication, how to start to develop relationships with people. I was super unconfident, super socially anxious, super anxious in general. And as I started to incorporate all of these habits into my life, the depression very quickly started to subside. And I think a part of the reason I dealt with that was because I had zero purpose in my life. I woke up every single day playing video games. I absolutely hated school. Went to school, came home, played video games, went to bed, did the cycle all over again. One day after I saw a few of Elijah Long's videos, I decided to change something. And very quickly, I became obsessed, and when my friends would say, hey, you want to go on FaceTime and you want to hang out, this and that, I would start declining those things because I was so obsessed with, I want to research this and I want to experiment this in my life and do all these reflection sessions and journaling and figure out who I am. And so over the past 5 years of doing that, I started about 3 years after that, my own podcast and YouTube channel, and started to make a bunch of videos about some things that I've learned, what's helped me along my journey. And then when one of my first mentors saw the content that I was putting out, and he said, he is a business and high performance coach, and he reached out to me, he's like, have you ever thought about coaching, and I'm like, I feel like I've heard of that before, but I don't know. And so he introduced, this is what you could do in terms of coaching with what you are already doing and the concepts that you're presenting, what you're teaching people about, what you're giving advice about, how you're guiding people. And so over the next year, when he met me, I worked with him to build out a business around it, build the systems, as well as how to become an optimized coach and actually be there for my clients and know what I'm doing, as opposed to just, you say this, first thing that comes to my mind for advice, just shoot it at you. It's like, okay, that's a lot more intricate than that. And so I learned the power of asking people deep questions and also being a little bit confrontational. And so when my client comes to me and says, "Oh, like I'm hooking up with this person and it's fucking this other person over, and it's not that great, but it's a guilty pleasure of mine." I'm like, "Hold on a second. You said guilty." And so there's an incongruency here. It's not in alignment with your values. You're messing up with somebody else's life. Let's dive into this. Why do you feel like you're doing that? Do you feel like you don't care about that other person? And we really dive into it, and we're not letting things slide. Because I think a part of the reason as to why people want to work with any coach and with me is that you want to reach the best version of yourself and make a lot of progress in your life. And you can't do that if you continually neglect the things that you're not aware of, and even further, continue to neglect the things that you are already aware of that you're doing that are not benefiting you or anybody else, yet you continue to do it anyway because you're getting some sort of benefit out of it, some sort of pleasure, but sometimes that comes from hurting someone else, manipulating someone. And so we need to change these behaviors. But first, we need to understand what exactly is going on, what the root cause of it is, and why we feel okay why we're doing it. And this dives into a lot of the dark parts of human nature, which are very exciting to get into, and how so many of us are a lot more lonelier than we tell people we are. We have a lot more insecurities than we admit. And once we start to look ourselves in the mirror and admit that we have these, and that's the first step to the ultimate self-reflection that really gets us to where we want to go. So I've done all of that in my life, and I continue to do it every single day. And doing that really motivated me to become a life coach and really help people on their journeys. And people all the time say to me, "Well, Brad, you're 21. What do you know about life?" I work with clients who are my age. I work with people who are younger than me. I work with people in their 30s, in their 50s. One of my oldest clients is almost 60 years old. And so I love, and to me, there was a little bit of uncertainty at the beginning of like, yeah, I am young. Like maybe there are some certain things I don't know because there aren't. There's so much more for me to learn about life and to incorporate into my coaching practice. But it was very enlightening and amazing to see that people that were much older than me really resonated with what I was talking about, what the concepts are that I dive into, and how I coach. And there was no questioning for them. It was like, yeah, let's do it. And so it's been an incredible journey so far. I'm so grateful to be able to do what I do. Only a year and a half ago, this was a dream of mine that I knew was going to come to reality, but there was still a lot of uncertainty of like, oh, what if it doesn't work out? What if I can't make any progress? What if no one wants to work with me? And so, man, I'm so blessed, so blessed to be able to do this.
That's amazing. Yeah, you turned your depression into a superpower. It's like myself, I have trauma, so I turned that to my superpower. And I started this podcast to reach out to people who struggle from trauma and they take it to their adulthood. And I took it to my adulthood. And there's like an situation the other day where a man viciously attacked me. And then I talked to my coach about it. And he's like, you know what? That's just your subconscious reminding you you're leveling up. You're getting something better. So when stuff like that happens, it's a blessing because there's something better coming your way after that. So I was like, oh, that's cool. And then I started studying the law of assumption and figuring out how we create our own reality. And it's just fascinating how our mind actually works. And I also do content as well on YouTube, and I do the podcast, but I'm also a quantum healing hypnotherapist. And I love it because you get to dive into past lives. So I get to talk to people from other centuries, from other planets. So that's a neat part about my job too. So it's cool that you are embracing your power and taking it and turning it into something beautiful. So I commend you for that.
I really appreciate that. And that's super awesome that what you do, because that's super diverse, that's super deep. How would you say you got into that of kind of, because I've talked to a few people about, the ancestry stuff and talking to people in past lives and kind of being able to communicate with people. And it's something I haven't really dived into. So I'm curious on the in-depths of how that operates.
Okay, well, first, well, what drove me to it was my mother had to die for basically for this to like transpire, and I met this lady who was spiritually. Then I didn't know nothing about spirituality, and she introduced me to spirituality. But she was like, "Hey, check out this author. Her name's Dolores Cannon." So then I started reading Dolores Cannon, and the first book I read, Between Death and Life, and I realized death is not something to be afraid of. It's actually a blessing because it just means that you fulfilled your purpose, you're done your contract, it's time to move on to the next. Like I did a past life regression. My past life, I was a Nazi. I worked in Auschwitz. I incinerated people. That was my job. And I didn't agree with it anymore, so I took my own life. And when I was born with a scar right here, and I never realized where it came from, but that was because I pointed the gun directly at my head and I shot myself. And a lot of our trauma we take from our past life and bring it to this life. And some of the stuff that we like endure in life, we set it up because of what we've done to pay back what we've done in our past. And what got me into it was I learned how to connect with the subconscious mind. I was meditating, I was doing a chant with my fiance, and I was able to visit my mother in the spiritual realm. And she told me she was proud of me. She was thankful for the man I became. And she's so happy that I've found someone that's special to me. And then later on, I decided I'm going to take this course. And then I did it. And I worked with a woman who was struggling from cancer. And she was stage 4 breast cancer. She no longer has cancer because cancer is our emotions that we bottle down deep inside of us. And eventually they fester and grow into something that, like disease doesn't exist. We create disease with our mind and we don't even realize we're doing it. It can be through anger. It can be through fear. Even depression can cause you to have mental health problems and you don't even know you realize it, but they don't see that. And then they give you medication to subside it, but it's not subsiding anything. It's literally just putting a bullet on a bullet hole. And so I got into it and I've met so many amazing people because of it. And I've learned their stories and it's like a 2-hour interview. And then I put them under hypnosis for 2 hours. And then they talk to their subconscious and do whatever healing that they want done or what answers they need or their purpose. Because a lot of people don't know their life's purpose and they're tired of working at a job where they're depressed all day and come home and they bring it home. So they're like, it's time to make a change. So that's why they come.
It's so interesting. Especially, I mean, I loved everything that you said. And on the point of the trauma and how this is manifesting in our lives, it's been so crazy to witness observing people who have gone through an immense amount of trauma and they have all these health problems. More health problems than I've ever seen in my entire life, and some of them seem so random, like they're not correlated to anything. But it's so incredible to hear how some of this can be connected to the internal processes that are happening mentally and how we can create, because I mean I suppose dissecting the word disease, it's dis-ease, like you're not at ease in some way, shape, or form. And so it's crazy to see how that manifests in our physical health just from our mental really going down the drain.
You read like books like Abraham Hicks, who talks about like illness. The reason there's so much illness is because we're giving out free flu shots. We're doing this. Like it's all like, it's the simulation. Like I don't know if you believe in the Matrix or not, but I believe we are in a simulation. And the simulation is always trying to deter us from what we're actually doing. Like television, social media. Good social media, of course, is wonderful, like motivating quotes, affirmations. But then you've got the bad social media, which is mind-numbing, constantly scrolling. I've heard of this thing called doom scrolling before you go to bed now because of this. And it's doing something to our mind, and it's making our mind uneasy, and it's causing us all sorts of problems with our brain capacity. Our bodies are shutting down. Younger, like people are getting sick for no reason. It doesn't make any sense, but it's because we're constantly exposed to the same thing over and over again. You hear it on the radio, you hear it on the television, you see it on the internet. There's always this drug, that drug, and then it makes you think that you're sick. But none of us are actually sick. We're all healthy. We just believe that we're sick because the idea has been planted in our head, because we're living someone else's reality. We're not living our own reality. And when you step out of that reality and you see like even people like my family, for instance, distance themselves. My best friends distance themselves because of the person I've changed to be. And I'm okay with that. I'm alone now, but I'm not actually alone because I have my subconscious, I have my beautiful fiance, and I have like the people that are in the community that I belong to, but everyone else is kind of just figuring out their own stuff. And I find when you introduce this new form of yourself to someone, they're either stuck in their own securities or they're jealous of what you got. And they just want to tear you down because they want what you have, or they don't see that inside of them, and it makes them feel vulnerable and insecure. So they attack you for no reason. And that's what I'm learning, because that's why gossip, that's why drama, that's why all this garbage that's going on right now exists, because of people's insecurities, their vulnerabilities. They're not taking accountability for themselves, and it's growing. And that's what you see constantly is negative energy. I mean, there's nobody happy anymore. Everybody's either in a rush or they're just pissed off. And they don't even know why they're pissed off.
Absolutely. You know, I love every single point you make because it's all interconnected. And we're so shut down to the potential of us being vulnerable and facing ourselves and realizing that, hey, it's not just this person that's doing something wrong. Because it's like, you know, in just the action of gossiping, it's like, okay, you're gossiping because you think that this person did something wrong or they pissed you off or they made you feel a certain way. But now look at yourself and how you're replaying this in your mind over and over again. They're probably not thinking about you anymore, but you keep thinking about them. And not only are you just thinking about them, you're using words to talk down on them. Like, what type of energy are you putting out into the world? And then what type of energy do you expect to get back? And so all of the people who gossip all the time, you don't take any action in your life, you refuse to be vulnerable, not only with other people, but with yourself. You shoot yourself in the foot before you even start. And you expect life to reward you for that. And life doesn't reward you for that. And then you get more mad and more upset and more triggered and say, well, the universe or God or life just hates me. Like, and then you develop the victim mentality. Oh, this is just what happens for me. I talked to some of my clients. I was talking to one of my clients the other day, and his relationship partner, whenever he tries to have a vulnerable conversation with him about something that they can improve upon together, his relationship partner just goes, oh, well, this is just the way I am. And so it's like, further distance. So like you're saying, it's like certain people, when you adopt a new viewpoint of life that is not common among most people, people start to distance themselves from you because they think it's weird. They think it's not interesting in a positive light, but it's weird. It's just, I don't want to be around Andrew anymore. I don't want to be around Brad. And the reason for this is, like you're saying, is not only because the reason is because it brings up something within them. It's like, oh, like maybe there is potentially some truth to this, but I don't want to look in that direction, because what would that force you to do? It would allow you to look at yourself in your 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years of life and look at yourself and say, oh, I've been doing this wrong. Oh, my mindset on how the world operates, oh, this is wrong. Oh, this thing that I thought was the truth for my entire life is actually a lie I've been told since I was 5 years old. It's very scary. And so that's why I've been doing, you know, because I used to then judge people for being in this mindset. And so it's like came full circle of like, oh wait, I thought I was doing better, but oh wait, I really wasn't, because I was judging them still. So it's like I have a lot more openness for people who have that experience and accepting of what they're going through, because I mean it's a lot to be able to look at the sum total of your life and realize you did a lot of things wrong, or sometimes everything. And, you know, there's different circumstances people are in, right? It's like, you know, if you're in a dead-end job that you hate, it's like, okay, maybe you grew up with not a lot of money, and you needed to work that job to survive, and now you're just in it, now you have kids, now you have a wife to provide for, all this stuff. And so there's situations like that, of course. But there's also, like, for example, I would say I'm in a more privileged position. I grew up middle class. I never had to worry about food being put on the table. My parents always provided for me. And so for me to not follow my dreams and to go for something I'm passionate about would be a disservice to myself, to my family, and to the life I've been provided. And so everyone has a different viewpoint on that. Some people say, oh, it's like, oh, you know, everyone's always, oh, you're privileged, so you're this, and that. And it's like, a part of the reason as to why you're so angry is because you wish you were that too. And that's completely understandable, because, I mean, I didn't choose any of this, and you also didn't choose where you are. But here's the mindset shift of like, there's people more privileged than me. There's people who have a lot more money. There's people who had a lot more mental health, less mental health struggles in general, as opposed to when I did. And so it's like, whenever you think about saying this person's more privileged than me, they're struggling severely in an area in which you have no idea is occurring. And so for us to look at people, because I've had friends that have a lot of money look at other people with more money and say, I can't believe he's depressed. He has all the money in the world. It's like, hold on a second. You thought that just having money solves all of your issues? What I believe is that your money amplifies everything that's currently going on internally. So let's say you're the most insecure person in the world. You want to be like, I want to start to make $20,000 a month, and you do that. You're probably going to be spending a lot of your money on things that you don't need. Probably going to be potentially paying sex workers, and depending on what area you're trying to fill the void in, because if you have insecurities within you, that's what the money is going to do. And so this isn't always, and this isn't universal, but chances are, because I know people who make a lot of money, and they're in the business realm, and they do these things because there's a hole to fill. And so that's one thing that we don't recognize, is that these things that we do that are culturally normal, overly drinking, overly smoking weed, overly having sex with people that you have no intimate connection with, we think this is normal, and we think this is just, we label it as fun, yet you don't feel fulfilled from it. And so I think fun and fulfillment very much go hand in hand together. And so it's an illusion of fun of what you're having, because you're further distancing you from yourself. Now, I like to make this point of, okay, let's say you're in your early teenage years and, you aren't really in tune with your values yet, or you really haven't really thought of deeper about life, and you start to go through puberty and you start to get a little bit more horny and you have a few sexual experiences with people. Like, there is the biological aspect to it of like, okay, giving people a little bit of leeway. But once you start to get addicted, once you start using people, once you start throwing people to the garbage, when the person you're going on a date with thought they were getting to know someone to potentially be in a relationship, you just wanted to use them for their body and then go on to the next person. And so it's like we have a culture of men and women that are both so disconnected from each other, and we're all rooted against each other at war. Men and women are at war with each other nowadays. The women are going, I hate all men. I can't believe men treat me like this. The men are going, there's no more good girls in the world. They're all whores. They're all this. And everyone's going against each other. And what we're not realizing is that each one of us, both sexes, are contributing to this. And we need to change something as individuals, of course, and culturally, which I don't think that's going to happen because everything in the culture promotes against that, whether it's the music, politics, and everything all together. It's all let's go against each other, not let's unite. And so we destroy ourselves, not only in our friend groups and the overarching theme of our society, but in our individual lives too. And so we take too many drugs, we have sex too much, and we become miserable. And then we say, what happened? Like, I did everything that I thought was fun. I did everything that all my friends are doing. It's what I was supposed to do. It's like, look around and see how many of your friends are truly content with their life. Probably not that many of them. And you're choosing to do every single thing that they're doing and being influenced by all of their behaviors. And then you reach the point of misery that they're at, because misery loves company. They'll bring you right down with you. And then you look back at your life, whether you're still in your early teenage years, or you're in your 20s or your 30s, or you're 60, and you say, what happened to my life? You happened to your life. You did not become aware. You did not gain any sort of consciousness around what the consequences of your actions are. And you went along with what everyone else did. And again, give people a little bit of leeway for this, because sometimes consciousness and awareness isn't something that you're just pops up. Like for me, going through depression really sparked that. So it was a very negative event and traumatic experience, you could say, that really caused that shift in my mind to really start to look at things a little bit deeper. Some people don't have that, or they have it, but they're so traumatized that their mind will not allow them to gain this higher consciousness, you could say, and become aware of things. And so one thing that I've been really diving into recently that's been very interesting is how, man, obviously, in the dating realms, men are hurting women more than ever, women are hurting men more than ever, we're rooted against each other. And a lot of the people that become hurt or traumatized that used to be good people now start doing the traumatizing. So it's very interesting because I've been able to gain awareness around this. When one of my past partners does me wrong, or things don't go the way I want them to, or the way we want them to, I look at it, I reflect. I say, okay, what did they do wrong? Okay, I'll look out for that in a future relationship. And also, what did I do wrong to contribute to the downfall of this relationship? And do the reflection on that and change the things within myself. Because there's been plenty, even the relationships that I look back on, where I would say one or two of the women I'm with that made more mistakes than I did. I wasn't far behind them. I still made plenty of mistakes. And so what do we do most of the time after relationships? Oh, I hate my ex-girlfriend. I hate my ex-boyfriend. I can't believe they did this to me. I can't believe they manipulated me. I can't believe they disrespected me. Hold on a second. Who allowed that to happen, and who allowed it to continue to happen? And also, that reveals something deeper. And so that happened to me in one of my dating experiences, and at first I started to blame the other person. Oh, they just manipulated me. They disrespected me. And then I looked at myself and I said, wait a minute. This is an insecurity within me. Because after the disrespect kept occurring, I stayed. I didn't walk away. So there was something within me. You could say fear of abandonment, fear of someone leaving me, fear of maybe I won't find someone else. And so to fully place the blame on them would mean that there's no self growth for me because there's an insecurity within me. But if I completely project everything onto them and refuse to see that there's something within me that tolerated this, and because this goes very deep, because I was talking about this with my clients on a group call the other day, sometimes you accept the love that you think you deserve. And so one of my clients came to me and he's like, I'm hooking up with someone that's married, and we dived into that, and obviously dived into that and how should not be doing that. And I said to him, "Is that all you deserve? Is that what you really want? Because what I think you really want is to be feel deep love and connection and an intimate connection with a human being. Do you get that from them? Like, no, you just get a perceived pleasurable experience, and all the nerve centers being reacted throughout your body." And I said to him, is this all that you deserve? And he's like, no, I know I deserve so much more. I said, hold on a second, you don't. Because if you fully embody that and you knew that you deserve so much more, you wouldn't be engaging in this activity. You would accept nothing less but what you know that you want. And I'm not free of this type of behavior, not in hooking up with somebody that's married, but in the realms of really not recognizing, like, I have this perceived value, or I think I'm more confident than I am, or I think I have things more put together than I am. My ego gets in the way. And then an experience happens, and it's like, that's what's testing you. We can say anything that we want, but the experience is what is going to really allow you to be tested and everything to come full circle. For example, if you, in that relationship in which I feel like my partner started to walk all over me, if you took me a year before that, like my last relationship before that, like nothing of that happened. My partner loved me so much, she cared so much for me, she just did so much for me. And if you talked to me then or after that relationship ended and said, like, this type of girl that I dated after that, would you ever date someone like that? I'd look at it from the outside looking in and those qualities of a person. I say, absolutely not. Never in my entire life. But what happened? I did. And so we can always beat ourselves up for it and feel guilty and shameful, which I did for a certain period of time. But it's like, hold on, there's reflection here. And everything about life is about growth. And as long as you're looking for that growth and you're analyzing and accepting where you're at now, because that's what we don't do. We delude ourselves. Like I was saying before, we think we're better than we actually are. And that's not to say that we are not enough. It's not saying that. It's just that I feel like I'm so high on this horse and like I'm so good at life. I have it all figured out. And you don't. Because your experiences are showing all of the incongruencies between your words and your actions. And so that's why the cliche saying of like, actions speak louder than words. It's like, words speak loud, but obviously actions speak louder because that's what's actually going on in reality. Your thoughts or your words are just you projecting yourself. It's like, hey, does that match up? And so that's why I have shifted in my life, making it more of a habit to take more action than I do run my mouth, because usually doesn't really, nothing, not that nothing occurs from it, because obviously we're having this conversation and using your words and not necessarily doing a physical action is very beneficial at times. But I'm talking about more of the just talking high about yourself, like, oh, I'm going to do this. I was talking to my friend yesterday who's been studying psychology for quite a few years. He's one of the most intelligent people I know that's of the younger age group. He's not a psychologist yet, but he's been going to school for it, and he's absolutely obsessed with it. I mean, the way his mind works and how intricate he knows the details of everything is incredible. And he was telling me of like hundreds of studies he's looked at how when you tell people about something that you want to do or a goal that you're going for, you're more likely to achieve it. And I said to him, it's been the direct opposite in my experience. And so it's interesting because he's like, yeah, I mean, there's always outliers, because it's interesting to see that of how he's looked at hundreds of studies. It's like all these people, hey, I'm talking about this, and then I'm going for it. I said to him, like, I think a part of the reason as to why it's been the opposite for me is because most people are doing what is culturally acceptable. What I'm doing is not culturally acceptable. Dropping out of school, starting a business. Business is hard. It's difficult. Most businesses fail. I hear that all the time. And so people look at me. And so if I come to them and say, hey, this is the goal I'm going for, this is what I really want to do, what do most people say? What if it doesn't work out? Oh, do you have a plan B? And I'm like, hold on a second. I'm trying to tell you about this thing and I'm super passionate about it, and you're just basically running my name in the dirt. And listen, I appreciate constructive criticism because there's areas of which I don't always notice about myself. But to take the overarching theme and whole of what I'm doing and to say, oh, well, what if it doesn't work out, is like, how would you feel if you were following your dream and somebody said that to you? You wouldn't know because you gave up on your dreams 5 years ago. That's most people's reality. is misery. We gave up on our dreams when we were kids. We were told that we could be anything that we want, and then once we reached 15, 16 years old, we're told, all right, now you have to be realistic. What do you want to do in college? And that's not to say, I'm very against school for myself just because I absolutely despise it. But I think if school is your path and it's going to lead you to where you want to go in your dream job, I think that's absolutely incredible. Go to school. But as we can see statistic-wise, I mean, most people get a job and a career that has nothing to do with the major that they graduated in. I think it's well over 70%, might even be higher now. And so we have to ask ourselves, like, how are we being indoctrinated? How are we viewing the world? What actions are we taking? What inaction are we, like, what are we not doing that we know we should be doing? And how much of life are you living because you're afraid of people judging you and you just want to fit in? Ask yourself that question. You're going to find a lot of incongruencies in comparison to that and what you actually want to do with yourself. And until you bridge the gap between that and start to incorporate less of those activities and more of what you actually want to do, you're just scared of what other people are going to think about you, and you're afraid of what you might think about you and if it's even going to work out. But until you can start to actually take the small steps to start to incorporate that into your life, you're probably going to be miserable forever. And that's not to try and take it to the extreme and, oh my God, your life is just going to be dark and gloomy, but it is. Because if you continue to live your life not doing what you want to do, I mean, that's a high price to pay.
Absolutely. And it's funny how you're talking about all that, because I was in a 7-year relationship and I did all the things that you were discussing about, like, oh, I blame this person, I blame that person. I was there. I did it. So when I found spirituality and I woke up and I started to do the work inside, but you got to do the work inside. And people, if they just learn to meditate, I guarantee people would quit their jobs and find something that they're truly passionate about, because you have to work inside of here. If you can't work inside of here, you're always going to be miserable. And that's the thing that I learned. I went through years of working for toxic companies. I worked in the oil field, which I thought was toxic. When you start to work for the railway, and my friend, you are just treated like a number. You have no rights. You have no freedom. You are basically dirt to these people. And then you work with people day in, day out that are miserable, that have been doing this company. You can see that there's like a new skin over them. They're just like hunched over and just miserable. And it's like, oh, I'm doing it. I got to do it. I got to get that pension. I got to get that pension. I'm like, man, that pension is not worth it if you're this miserable. And I had to leave. And I was lucky because my mother left me an inheritance. So I was able to leave my job. But I could not imagine waking up day in, day out, hating my job that much, that I go to work all day and talk negatively about the company. I talk negatively about my coworkers. I complain about this. I complain about that. I'm in an unhappy marriage. My wife, I can't leave my wife because she'll take half my pension. She'll take my kids. Like day in, day out, that's what I heard. And it was started to affect me to the point where I was taking it home. And then I was observing that reality and then transforming that reality into my reality. And that brought in so much drama and unwanted stress. And then it kept me in a relationship for 7 years. I was in a relationship where I was just comfortable and stuck. And it took me learning to do the work for myself and realizing that we are both not happy and we need to stop this. And the reason that I did that was because in my parents' relationship, they fought day in, day out. I told them, I sat them down at the table, please get a divorce. I can't handle this anymore. They continued to still do the same thing day in, day out. And then my father had a horrific accident for him to learn his lesson. He still didn't learn his lesson, and he ended up in jail because of his repercussions. And he ended up with a brain injury, and like all the tips of his fingers except for his pinkies and his thumb gone because they were frostbitten because he drank a copious amount of alcohol and fell asleep on the ice. And I found him later on, but he did not learn his lesson. And because of that, he went to jail 3 times. And then it's just like we just don't learn until we lose something. But even when we lose something, we don't pay attention to the message behind it. And it brings us darker into this hole. And then we just absolve this hole and we just stay in that hole and we don't get out of it. And it takes a lot of will and courage to get out of it. but you also have to want to do it at the same time. And a lot of people do not want to get better. They want to be the victim. They want to stay miserable because they are getting instant gratification from people reaching out to them and wanting love and attention. Or they're getting instant gratification from hooking up with random women, because I did that too. I was that person that hooked up with so many random women. And it was my instant gratification. It gave me a high. Totally. I did copious amounts of drugs. Why? To fill the void. Did it help? No. I smoked cigarettes. I did it all, man. Like, I put so much damage through my body, and I've like cleaned out everything mentally, physically. And it only works if you want to do it. But if you don't want to do it, we can talk day in, day out to these people, but if they don't want to do the actual work, then we can't help them.
Absolutely. And I think the foundation for our lives as individuals and in a romantic relationship specifically, growth it needs to be a part of the foundation. If it's not, then you're either staying stagnant, which isn't good, but most of the time you're not staying stagnant. Mostly you're in a downward spiral, at least very shortly after you stop growing in your life. And so, it's so interesting because, I've met so many people that their only perception of life is what they have now is doing so many drugs. It's like their parents do it, then they do it, then they get into a friend group that does it, and they have no perception of anything outside of that. And then when they meet somebody that does those things and is like, hey, maybe we should do this together. Hey, maybe we should incorporate this. It's like, oh no, please stay away. Because it allows you, what it does is it forces you to face yourself. And these people have never faced themselves in their entire life because their parents never faced themselves, then they never faced themselves, their friends never faced themselves. And so this is like a different reality for them. And so I was actually in a romantic relationship for a few months where this was the case, and it's like she just didn't want to do anything. I mean, so many things she was doing to detriment her health, and she knew it, but she just felt like she couldn't get out of it, or just, it's so difficult. And it's like, hey, I get it. Like, I want to help you through this. Didn't allow me to help her. And so I think it's also because, like, since you have no perception of it, like, there's a part of you that genuinely believes it's not possible. And I resonate with that because when I was depressed for 3 years, I thought I was going to be that for the rest of my life. I thought I was going to take my own life at some point. And so it's like, now I can see as to how you see no way out. But there is a way out. So, like, when we're living in our mind for that long in a negative spiral, or we're constantly indulging these habits, like, we're in a bubble. And the world is all out here. All of the tools and the methods to get yourself on the right track are there. And so people might come and say, well, how do I start with this? How do I get access to those tools if I'm so stuck in this bubble? First thing to do is to look at yourself and start to ask yourself deep questions, in which you probably never asked yourself before. Am I passionate about anything in this life? What do I think about everything that I do on a current day-to-day basis? What do my relationships look like? What does my boyfriend or girlfriend do? How do they treat me? How do I feel in connection to them? What's my relationship to my parents? And asking all these questions, like, they're very uncomfortable because oftentimes they're going to be very dark answers. Oh my God, I hate my dad. I can't believe my mother did this to me. My girlfriend just makes me so angry when she does this. It's going to be all of this stuff that's overwhelming. So it's very important is to dissect this individually once at a time. You can't get it all over because then you're going to be overwhelmed and you're going to go right back to where you were in your bubble and refusing to look at yourself deeper and take an action step because you're like, this is too much to deal with. I'm just going to keep coping. I'm going to keep taking drugs. I'm going to keep hooking up with people. I'm going to keep doing this because you never have to look at yourself by doing that. But that's the only way that you grow is to look at yourself because everybody is doing what they want to do in their life. Like, people are going to do what they want to do regardless. But what are you doing in your life that's contributing to you being miserable? Oftentimes we're like, well, it's my girlfriend and my boyfriend's fault, or it's my parents' fault, or it's all of these people's fault, or it's the world's fault, or it's the government, or it's this is that. And it's like, I can agree that your parents probably, depending on who they are, were probably shitty parents. I could probably agree with you on that. I could probably agree that your boyfriend or girlfriend is treating you badly. I could probably agree that the government doesn't give two shits about you. But despite all of that being true, what are you going to do? You're just going to say, okay, well, my life is over now. Let's just deal with this. Or are you going to do the most courageous and beneficial thing possible for your life, which is, all of this is true. How incredible would it be to be the hero in my journey and to be the main character of this movie called My Life and take my completely shitty life and completely flip it around and become an absolutely amazing person, flourishing relationship, amazing job or business, finally figure out who I am, finally do things in my life that I'm passionate about. For some people, that's a distant dream. They say that's a different reality, maybe in a different lifetime. And I would love to challenge you on that and say you're dead wrong, and you can absolutely change almost everything in this current reality of what you're experiencing.
Beautiful. Well, this has been a wonderful conversation, Brad, and I'm so grateful and thankful to have met you, and wish you nothing but success, my friend, and much love to you.
I appreciate it, Andrew.
As we wrap up this enlightening discussion with Mighty Brad on Beyond Transcendence with Andrew, we are reminded that the journey to healing and self-growth starts with looking inward. Brad's story of transformation highlights the power of self-reflection, the courage to comfort our past, and the importance of taking responsibility for our lives. By understanding the root causes of our behaviors and embracing personal growth, we can overcome life's challenges and create a more fulfilling life. If you enjoyed this conversation, please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more inspiring content. Your support helps spread these powerful messages to those who need it the most. To wish you all a wonderful rest of your day, and much love to all of you. Bye.